Yesterday we discussed Awakened My Life. The place mentioned in Awakened My Life was Mile High Church. Mile High Church is in Denver. Mile High is a transliteration. The altitude there is about 1,600 meters, I believe. So the city is called the Mile High City, and the church is also called Mile High Church. That's the story behind the name. I forgot to mention yesterday, that girl, Leah Groth, back in 2014. In November 2014, I went to Stanford University. At that time, I gave a talk titled The Spread of Tibetan Buddhism in the Han region. During that talk, I met her. Only later did I learn that back in 1993 at Mile High Church, she had formed a connection with us. Later, she also had some contact with some of our editors. That's the background. Today, we'll discuss a brief introduction of Shambhala. This topic of Shambhala also appears in the second volume in Boston. His Holiness also gave a special teaching on Shambhala there. In fact, His Holiness was very familiar with both the Kalachakra and the Shambhala teachings. When he spoke about them, he was extremely knowledgeable. When he taught these, he didn't need to look up any materials or ask anyone. It just flowed naturally from him, spoken spontaneously. Much of what he said was truly extraordinary. So perhaps we should also, especially this year on the monks' side, you have already received the Kalachakra empowerment. The nuns almost received it too, but in the end they didn't. There's nothing I can do about that. It just didn't work out. Regarding the Kalachakra, it is highly valued by the Gelug and our Nyingma tradition as well. It's very important among the tantric teachings, and it was spoken directly by the Buddha himself. Very important indeed. As for Shambhala, there were some popular songs in the Han region. About 10 years ago or so from now, there was a popular song around that time called Shambhala is Not Far Away. After that, many people became curious. What exactly is this mysterious land of Shambhala? A brief introduction of Shambhala. On June 27th, His Holiness returned to Karma Dzong, the meditation center of Vajra Caste. He explained the history and origin of the kingdom of Shambhala, as well as the auspicious connection between Shambhala and that Dharma center, because at that center, Trungpa Rinpoche had established everywhere Shambhala warriors and Shambhala centers. He had a very special approach to the Shambhala teachings. His Holiness said, "I came all the way from the snowland of Tibet to the US. Today I have arrived at a place that can be called the second land of Shambhala. They called Boulder in this area of Denver the second land of Shambhala. That's what the center was called. In fact, the actual kingdom of Shambhala is one of the 5 great sacred places according to the Buddhist doctrines. What are these 5 great sacred places? The first is Bodh Gaya in India, located at the center of this world. The sacred place where all Buddhas of the 3 times will attain full awakening. The second is Mount Wutai, the 5-peaked mountain, the sacred place of the east where Lord Manjushri now dwells. The third is Mount Potala, the sacred place of the south where noble Avalokiteshvara actually resides. The fourth is Odiyana, the land of Dakinis, or copper-colored mountain. This is the sacred place of the west where Guru Padmasambhava abides. The fifth is Shambhala, the sacred place of the north, so they are arranged as east, south, west, and north. There are different explanations about these 5 sacred lands, but I won't go into that here. So where is Shambhala? It is located in a place that requires one who possesses powers to travel anywhere at will, to journey for 12 years. Many noble beings in the past have been there. For example, the great Indian Pandita Chilupa went there. There are various accounts about Shambhala. Of course, only those with certain powers have been there. Otherwise, can you get there by airplane nowadays? How would you travel there now? There are many questions. Some researchers of the mysterious in the West have specifically explored Shambhala and related topics. There are dedicated explorations in this area, but it's not so easy to get there. Some say that from the Potala Palace there's a direct passage to Shambhala, a secret tunnel. People have tried to explore it, but these are probably not something we can directly see in our human realm. It's similar to the pure land of Guru Padmasambhava, basically the same principle. The shape of the realm of Shambhala resembles an 8-petaled lotus. How is such a shape formed? How does it exist in the form of an 8-petaled lotus? At the center of the lotus is what's called Kalapa, the capital city of Shambhala. Within all the 8 petals, there are a total of 960 million smaller cities. There are so many cities. All rivers of Shambhala flow into the central city of Kalapa. It's like an eight-petaled lotus with a circle in the center. The city of Kalapa is located there. Some of this is depicted in Thangkas of the Kalachakra realm, that is to say, Thangkas of the Shambhala realm contain many such details. In terms of the royal lineage of Shambhala from ancient times to now, Shambhala will be ruled by 7 Dharmarajas and 25 Kalkin Kings successively. His Holiness explained this in more detail in a later teaching. The first of the 7 Dharmarajas was King Dawa Sangpo, also known as Suchandra, meaning moon virtue. Many Thangkas of Dawa Sangpo and these Dharmarajas from the Qing dynasty era can now be found in the Palace Museum in Beijing. They're also available online. He was with one of the first groups of disciples who received the Kalachakra teachings from Buddha Shakyamuni at the great stupa of Sri Danyakataka in southern India, not long before the Buddha's passing. The teachings he compiled are known as the glorious root Kalachakra Tantra. In Sanskrit it's called Sri Kalachakra. How long is this text? King Dawa Sangpo retained it in his memory and compiled it into 12,000 verses. Many of us with the 37 practices of a bodhisattva. Oh, I can recite the bodhisattva's way. I'm so impressive. People think, I can recite 8 verses of mind training. When we go out, many people ask, can you assign us texts to memorize? What can you memorize? We can recite 8 verses of mind training, as if that's incredibly impressive. But actually, memorizing 8 verses of mind training isn't really that much. He memorized 12,000 verses. His successors mainly continued to teach and study this text. Actually, King Dawa Sangpo went directly to Shambhala and taught it in the Shambhala language, then translated it into Sanskrit. It later flourished in India. Some historical accounts say this as well. During the reigns of the 7 Dharmarajas, the inhabitants of Shambhala were subject to a caste system, just like in ancient India. There were Kshatriyas, the warrior and royal caste, Vaishyas, the merchant caste, and Shudras, the commoner caste. A set of regulations existed where most castes were forbidden to receive Dharma teachings, while only inhabitants of certain castes were allowed to do so. This was the tradition at that time. Later, this caste system was abolished, and all were united into a single caste. What was this called? The Vajra Caste. The first among all holders of the Vajra Caste was Kalkin King Manjushri Yashas. He made great contributions to the Kalachakra teachings. He taught the abridged Kalachakra Tantra to hundreds of thousands of disciples, including followers of the Melcha religion. This teaching is also called the abridged Kalachakra Tantra. Generally speaking, I'm not sure about this year. The transmission given to everyone this year should have been Mypham Rinpoche's extensive Kalachakra commentary, which is particularly long, 2 volumes. At that time, some of our monk practitioners found it quite difficult to listen through, I heard. Later, when I asked some people about it, they said, oh, it was so painful. Actually, for some of us, even a little bit of austerity for the Dharma feels so painful. If they had to receive the transmission of the entire Kangyur, I don't know what words they would use to describe it. So painful, they would have exhausted all such expressions. The abridged Tantra has 5 chapters. His royal heir was Pundarika, the White Lotus Kalkin King. He composed a commentary called Stainless Light. This is available in our Tibetan texts, an extensive commentary that explains the meaning of this Tantra. These 3 texts are particularly famous. Later, the Root Tantra, the Abridged Tantra, and the great commentary on the Abridged Tantra flourished in India. Then they came to Tibet. In Tibet, some say the first 2 chapters, but in our later versions it doesn't say that. Only the Root Tantra, the complete Abridged Tantra, and the great commentary on the Abridged Tantra, that is, the Stainless Light mentioned earlier, the complete version has been translated into Tibetan. Initially, it wasn't directly translated. He didn't translate it directly. Some historical accounts say it was first in the Shambhala language and only later translated. The abridged Kalachakra Tantra appeared in India, and the year when the Kalachakra teachings first came to Tibet, 1027 CE, was named the year of Rabjung. At the end of treatises composed by many great masters, you often see such and such year of such and such Rabjung. This year should be, isn't it the 30-something year of the 17th Rabjung? When His Holiness went, it was the 7th year, right? When we went to Mount Wutai, the first year in 1987, that should have been the first year of the 17th Rabjung. In Tibetan, the Rabjung cycle is called Rabjung. Rabjung means the appearance of the Dharma, because it marks the auspicious time when the Kalachakra teachings appeared, hence the name. Combined with Chinese calendrical calculations, every 60 years is called one Rabjung cycle. This corresponds roughly to the Chinese Jiazi year. This appears in many places in the Book of Changes and other texts. Since the Kalachakra flourished in Tibet, His Holiness said that 1993 was the 7th year of the 17th Rabjung, so this year is the 37th year of the 17th Rabjung. That's how we can put it, the 37th year of the 17th Rabjung. In another 23 years, the 17th Rabjung will be over. Many of us won't be in this world by the 18th Rabjung. We probably won't see the 18th Rabjung. We also didn't see, well, in our 30s. We did see part of the 16th Rabjung. For all the Dharmarajas and Kalkin Kings, when one ruler's reign comes to an end, his successor immediately ascends to the throne. Each Kalkin King reigns for 100 years usually, but this is not always the case. Samudravijaya and Aja, these two Kalkin Kings, were exceptions. The other 23 all followed the same pattern. Since their enthronement, as long as they were on the throne, within 100 years, they taught the Kalachakra teachings to the people of the 960 million cities of Shambhala. As for Kalkin Kings Aja and Samudravijaya regarding their reign, His Holiness said at that time that together they taught for 420 years, each teaching for 210 years. But later, some historical accounts say the total reign was 403 years, during which Samudravijaya taught for 182 years, and Aja turned the wheel of Dharma for 221 years. This is slightly different, but His Holiness's earlier statement, I haven't found it in later historical accounts, because he was so familiar with this teaching. Perhaps he had a source for it, but the currently accepted account uses the latter version, so I later changed it to this latter version. Who is the present Kalkin King in Shambhala? It is the 21st Kalkin King Aniruddha. This year is the 67th year of his reign. After him, the 22nd and 23rd and the 24th Kalkin King will appear successively. Then the 25th refers to Rudra Chakrin, the wrathful wheel holder. In the past, Mipham Rinpoche also spoke of this Rudra Chakrin king. Mipham Rinpoche was said to be one of his ministers at that time. By then, the Dharma will have declined in the world, with its name hardly heard by anyone. Not only that, among the inner and outer cities of Shambhala encircled by snow mountains, all the outer cities will have been conquered by armies of barbarians. When the barbarian armies are about to invade the inner city, Rudra Chakrin will appear to be furious. Fully armed, he will ride on his stone war horse through miraculous power, wielding his iron wheel in the air, bringing various weapons. He will proceed clockwise through Jambudvipa, Purvavideha, and Aparagodanya. Uttarakuru isn't mentioned here. He will wage war for 1 year. In the end, he will annihilate all the barbarian armies from the borderlands. When he hoists the victory banner of Buddha Dharma on the 4 continents, he will rule for 100 years. He has 2 sons. One is called, I think at that time it was said mighty, right? But later different sources say it was Brahma. Later His Holiness's wording was slightly revised. Brahma and Sureshvara, these two sons will cause the Kalachakra teachings to thrive and prosper for thousands of years without decline. The above was a brief introduction of the origin and history of Shambhala. Let me say a bit more. It is believed that your root Lama, Rinpoche, is the future Kalkin King Rudra Chakrin of Shambhala. They always said Trungpa Rinpoche was this, but in the biographies of many great masters there are different accounts. Such claims exist for various masters. In his life he created many auspicious conditions in this regard. He assumed the uniform of a military officer and arranged many guards by his side. When you visit his Dharma centers, it's a bit different from typical Buddhist centers. It is truly fortunate for you to have received his teachings and lineage. You are really lucky. By and large, anyone who practices the Kagyu teachings, and particularly the Dharma that he practiced, will be reborn in Shambhala as his warrior. When the Dharma flourishes in the future, what was the Dharma that he practiced? As I said yesterday, it was primarily the gradual and complete path that had been practiced by Jetsun Milarepa. Among all his practices, the most important is the one and only sublime path that is harmless and peaceful, commonly practiced by all Buddhist schools. That is, loving kindness and compassion. Some of you may wonder, we know our guru was an extraordinary and great Lama, but how is his primary practice loving kindness and compassion? How is this demonstrated? Our guru was truly remarkable, but in what ways did his compassion manifest? Here, His Holiness explained to them, actually all his activities were solely to transmit loving kindness and compassion. Had he been a person who pursued fame and offerings by staying in India or the land of Tibet, he would have gained much wider fame and many more offerings than here. It would probably work in Tibet. In India too it might work. Perhaps in Tibet people are quite fond of tulkus. India is like that too. This great master, that Rinpoche, but in the US, generally speaking, if one doesn't have real ability, people don't really care about titles. In Tibet or India, there are many lineage holders and great masters upholding the Dharma. But in the US, before he came, except for very few individuals, the majority had never even heard of the name of the Buddha, not to mention a word of the Dharma, nor had they ever seen a monastic Sangha. It is just because of this that he came here and established this main center, along with over 100 branch Dharma centers. What he accomplished is something no other great master in the past has ever done, a vast and extraordinary endeavor. So this alone suffices to demonstrate the profound loving kindness and compassion in his mind. Certainly, it may be inappropriate for me to talk about the qualities of your guru. This might be somewhat unsuitable, just like a stranger introducing your family members to you. But regardless, I have long heard of his vast activities in a distant land. His Holiness knew about some of his deeds when he was still in Tibetan area. Now, as I personally come here and witness his extraordinary deeds, my mind is filled with great amazement, joy, and devotion. His Holiness later said that sometimes he felt, seeing how hard Trungpa Rinpoche worked to come here, I think this was said in Canada, sometimes he felt compassion for him and sometimes great joy. Indeed, propagating the Dharma in the West is not easy. It's not like in Tibet, where a Rinpoche can teach when he wants to, and when he doesn't want to, he can just sit comfortably at home. It's not like that. Propagating the Dharma abroad is truly hard work. So these words just naturally rolled off my tongue. In Tibetan, we have a saying that goes like this. It's like selling a needle to a needle maker. This needle, if you go to a needle maker's house, there's no need to sell needles there. Trungpa Rinpoche is your guru. For me to come to your center and praise him telling his story, this is rather unnecessary. The point is, if you try to sell needles to a needle maker, you won't be able to sell them. There's no need. Likewise, speaking of all these qualities of Trungpa Rinpoche in front of his disciples, this may be more or less unnecessary. Please forgive me if there is anything inappropriate in what I've said. All right. Today His Holiness finished this teaching. I think tomorrow we should leave the second stop. Otherwise, we've stayed too long at the second stop. Staying too long in one place feels a bit uncomfortable. So I want to move on to the third stop soon. That's why I spoke a bit more today. Okay, that's all for today.
Sonandai Tamsa Prabhaya Tanani Jana Pasi Jirgana Jirano Chubai Jupun Solen Raja
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye